Well, now let's cross live to our correspondent, Annie Osakwe in Washington, D.C., where the United States government is currently in the middle of a shutdown that could end up being one of the longest in U.S. history. A lot is happening simultaneously in the American political space, including President Donald Trump's recent comments about Nigeria, and now also his announcement that he intends to begin appointing ambassadors as soon as next week. So Anieze joins us now live from D.C. with more context on what all of this means politically and diplomatically. Anieze, lovely to see you. How are you doing?
Hi, good morning, good afternoon to you, Kachi and Cynthia. So I'm currently, as you see, standing outside the White House. The sun is rising, so we're getting quite a bit of a view here. But, you know, I think that as someone, because I used to live in Washington, D.C., and the thing about this city is that you can really sense and you can feel when the government shuts down because everything essentially comes to a standstill. You know, this is a place that's populated by government workers, government buildings, parastatals. And yesterday when we were kind of going around the Capitol and even now at the White House, you can feel this void because just nothing is going on. And like you said, we're now potentially going into what could be the longest government shutdown in U.S. history. And it's important that we talk about this in the context of Trump's comments about Nigeria. You know, if we take a step back, these comments that he made over the weekend about this potential military invasion, you know, then he said there might be potential airstrikes, and the fact that he designated Nigeria as a country of particular concern and also threatened to remove aid unless Nigeria is able to essentially deal with those Islamic terrorists, as he's called them. It's all very important because while a lot of Trump supporters like Republican Senator Ted Cruz and other government officials are backing his statements, there has been this groundswell of reactions here talking about how there are issues at home. Clearly, the government is about to go into this really long shutdown and is thinking about Nigeria and thinking about the, you know, allegations of a Christian genocide, really where the U.S. should be putting all of its energies. And if we even just take a step back and look at the numbers, it's incredibly expensive to carry out military interventions. Yes, we know that the U.S. has the largest military budget in the world, inching close to $1 trillion, but it costs tens of billions of dollars to send military troops on the ground anywhere in the world. A single Tomahawk missile, which could be used in those airstrikes, costs $1 million for just one of those. So if you're just sending one, it's $1 million. So this would not be a cheap endeavor. And that being said, when we look at President Trump historically, he has taken military steps or military interventions by surprise. I mean, if you look at 2017, around April of 2017, after the former Syrian president Bashar al-Assad, you know, conducted those chemical weapon attacks on his people that killed about 80 people. President Trump, during his first administration, he was the one who conducted the surprise airstrike attack on a government building in Syria and only talked about it after the fact, after it had been conducted. So there's definitely a lot of questions that, okay, Trump has put these tweets out. Is it possible that he might conduct a surprise attack in Nigeria? That's a big question that's on a lot of people's minds at this moment.
Indeed, Anieze, and of course, you rightly mentioned the cost of a Tomahawk missile, which, so, you know, things just don't necessarily add up. I'm sure there's, I don't know if you are hearing anything on ground regarding any suspicions about what an ulterior motive might be for this, these moves that Trump is looking to make towards Nigeria. Is there anything that you're comfortable disclosing on air regarding that?
I mean, we know that, you know, this is a story that we've been covering at Arise for the last few weeks, and it's really something that's been bubbling up in the more conservative right-wing circles on social media, but also in person as well. Of course, the Republican senator from Texas, Ted Cruz, has really been at the forefront of this. He's been the leading voice. But at the end of the day, the people that are talking about this, the people that are backing this, are President Trump supporters. You know, another important story that you mentioned was the fact that major elections are taking place today across the country in battleground states as well as New York. Everyone's watching that mayoral race. But if we think about the base and the people that elected Trump into office the first time and the second time around, these are people that are backing these statements of this alleged Christian genocide in Nigeria. And I think this points to the fact that President Trump is listening to what's being said by the people that support him and the people that voted him into office.
Okay, well, the president of Nigeria, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, has now confirmed that he will be announcing new ambassadorial appointments, possibly as early as next week. So how do you feel like, based off of everything we've discussed, Nigerians should interpret this? Is this roots in diplomatic rotation, or is there a political message being sent with these new postings?
I mean, timing is everything, right? These announcements are something that a lot of people were waiting on for a very long time from President Tinubu's administration, and it's great that it's finally coming. The diplomatic community and ambassadors are so critical to any country and any country's ability to stand and communicate with the rest of the world. You know, when we talk about how Nigeria is seen vis-a-vis other countries in the world, when we talk about our Vice President, Kashim Shettima, going to the UN General Assembly and saying that Nigeria should have a permanent seat on the UN Security Council, it has to do with our diplomacy and how we're interfacing and relating with other countries around the world. If you don't have ambassadors to do that for you, someone who's a chargé d'affaires or someone who's high up at a foreign ministry, but not necessarily an ambassador, people may not be as willing to interface with them because they're not at that ambassadorial level. So it's a great step that, you know, the administration is finally taking, and I believe they already have a list of people that they have in mind for these positions that they're essentially just trying to clean up because the list is somewhat outdated. You know, there are reportedly some people who've retired, who are no longer in the diplomatic force, some people who've apparently passed away as well. So going through that list, fine-tuning it, and making sure that ambassadors, Nigerian ambassadors who are in the best position to speak for the country, really internationally, will be key to kind of moving through challenges such as the ones we're facing right now. So it's a great move.
Fantastic, and we'd like to thank you for your insightful update live from Washington, D.C., our correspondent, Anyeze Osakwe. Many thanks for joining us here on Newsday.